What's up guys, and welcome back to Tech Plant. Today I'm going to show you how I grew Anthurium Gracile from seed. Let's check it out. Alright, in this bag are some fresh Anthurium Gracile seeds. I ended up purchasing these off of somebody in like a Facebook group. I forget which one, but he was kind enough to send me a few for a really cheap and affordable price, so I thought why not give it a shot. These seeds are actually really small, and they're probably one of the most hardy and easier anthuriums to grow from seed, so that's why I'm kind of starting with this kind. Here's also a quick shout out to the guy who sold me these seeds. Here is his Instagram profile. I know he's working on some sort of website, so maybe in the future you can get some seeds from him as well. I'll put his link in the description, so please do give this guy a follow. He's really awesome. To germinate these seeds is actually pretty easy. All we're going to use is my trusty sphagnum moss and then a bin for kind of climate control. In order to kind of prep everything, I'm just going to put a bunch of dry sphagnum moss in this bin, and then I'm going to kind of just get it wet with some normal water to kind of my liking. If you're curious how wet that really is, I did make a video that really explains with a scale about how wet I make sphagnum moss, because I do think it's important because you can kind of under wet and over wet this stuff. Now, from the research that I did read up about this plant, you're going to want to kind of set these more on the surface. I decided to kind of tuck mine into little like crevasses or little gaps in the sphagnum moss, just so it's kind of touching and surrounded quite a bit, but not submerged underneath the moss. I would imagine what I researched is correct and true, because these do grow in trees, so they're not kind of growing in the dirt, so that is another good reason why we wouldn't bury the seeds, and we would just kind of place it on top so it can get enough moisture and germinate. Once I finish spreading out the seeds, now it's time just to put the lid on and put it under a grow light somewhere and make sure that it stays at least room temperature, and if not a little more, and these should germinate just fine. I started these seeds on October 28th, 2020, and now it is November 1st, 2020, so let's check them out. Kind of looking from afar and not close up, you can already see some life starting, which is pretty surprising because it's only been a few days. If we look a lot closer, you can see a lot of these seeds are starting to germinate. They're throwing out kind of their starter roots, and things are looking good. I was actually really worried about these because they did sit in the mailbox for a little long because I didn't get the notification by email, so they did get a little chilly. But it looks like they have survived and they are starting to germinate. Skipping ahead about 25 days, it is November 26th, 2020. At this point, you can actually see we have little plantlets forming. There are plenty of little baby leaves, and they're doing fantastic. These things have more than germinated and they are growing very well. You can still see that they're actually pretty small though compared to my hand, but it is still a lot of growth, so I'm happy. If you look much closer at these plantlets, you can see the initial kind of growth and first root that comes from the seed, and then from there you can see that the plant is actually starting to put out new different style roots, and these are going to be kind of the permanent roots that allow it to adhere to the substrate. I'm going to help these along a little bit by kind of piling up the sphagnum moss much closer to these newer roots. Looking at those newer roots forming though, you can totally tell this is an epiphyte. This was filmed on February 21st, so it has been almost 3 months that have passed since the previous footage, and these things have really grown up. Despite being attacked by spider mites a lot and really struggling with keeping them off, these things have grown up quite a bit and they really have put out some awesome roots. Now that they're much older, you can really see what I mean about the roots. These are definitely epiphytes. I mean, just look at those thick, awesome roots. These would be really good for kind of digging into bark and other parts of the tree to kind of hold on tight. These are not parasitic, by the way, they just kind of grow on the side of trees. Since they've kind of been in this bin a little too long, I'm definitely going to repot them today. So I'm going to show you what kind of potting medium I'm going to kind of mix up, so you might be able to kind of repeat this in the future if you ever decide to grow these. They're kind of nutrient deficient at this point, so I kind of want to get them potted up and start feeding them. When mixing up soil, you kind of want to think about where these plants actually grow, and like I said before, they do grow up on top of trees or kind of where branches connect to the main trunk. Kind of forms a little pocket and they can grow around in those little areas. So I'm going to try and mix up something that kind of replicates that. So I'm going to use a lot of perlite, orchid bark, sphagnum moss, a little bit of soil, and some cocoa husk. My goal is to kind of mix something up that's really well draining but stays kind of moist, just so the roots don't dry out. There are many other recommended like medium mixes out there, so if you don't like mine, you can definitely look something up, but this is just what I have on hand and what I'm going to go for. I'm going to try 2 kinds of pots. One will be just more of a plastic simple pot, and the rest will be net pots. Since these do like to get a lot of air, because again they're growing like up in the canopy on trees, I think it'll be a good experiment to see which one performs better. Getting these things out of the bin and kind of separated, I can really see that there is a ton of root growth under the surface and it looks fantastic. I'm really excited about this plant because this is my first Anthurium from seed, so I really hope they do well. and good in this new potting mix that I kind of made up for them, and they seem to have a good supporting root structure to do so. Please do ignore kind of the condition of the leaves. Again, they have been attacked by spider mites an awful lot. I used a lot of neem oil to kind of get rid of them, and I think they kind of recovered now, so they should do good repotting. If you followed my Instagram account, you'll know that I did buy a 3D printer, and I've been kind of experimenting with 3D printing different things for gardening, and I found a really large net pot model online, and so I printed that out, and I'm going to use it for these repottings. This was printed with PLA, so if these Anthurium kind of outgrow this little basket, I can just snip it apart easily and kind of get my Anthuriums out safe and sound. So I'm not too worried about it, because if I do destroy it, I can just print another one. So I think that's really awesome, and I can't wait to explore other avenues of 3D printing and where it meshes with gardening. Now that I have them potted up, I'm just going to kind of put them under my grow lights like I usually do and water them when they kind of start to get dry, and I guess I'll see you guys in about 6 months with an update. Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It was very fun and interesting to try and grow a whole new species from seed. It definitely makes me want to kind of hunt down some other more like rare seeds of other Anthuriums, Monstera, or even Philodendron. So I hope you guys kind of stay tuned for stuff like that. As always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.